Welcome back to the C-Pod.
How have you all been?
I've been good, thanks. Have you?
Oh yeah, I've been good, thanks as well.
Good, excellent. Today we are talking about coping with cancer. So its effects on daily life, balancing cancer, chemo, life generally, whether that may be school, uni, and just everything that comes with it. So let's begin. Let's talk about balancing chemo. So Leanne, when you were having your chemo, what was life like around it? How did you cope with going through cancer and the treatment and kind of juggling life outside of that?
Well, so what happened with me is that I was diagnosed and I was obviously at university, as people will know by now. So I was at university, and because my treatment was so intense and it was something that they couldn't say, okay, yeah, you can come back and we'll do it then. It had to be like instant treatment. So I had to drop out of university because my treatment was so intense, and I was constantly going like 4 days a week, non-stop at some points of the cycle. So for me, it was very difficult because I just adapted to this new life, which was then taken away from me.
Yeah.
I was put into a completely different world and I didn't know anything about cancer. So yes, it was tough as well, because I feel like going to hospital 4 or 5 times a week, every week to have treatments, it just absolutely takes it out of your body.
Also,
it's
like,
awful.
It's so regular.
Yeah.
Your treatment is so regular that its effect on your daily life is that your life is nothing else but
that is literally what it was. And when it came to speaking to people, I didn't, to be honest, know what to speak to them about, because they were experiencing all these things and they would speak to me about this, that, and then when they'd say to me, so how are you then? Well, what have you been up to? It would literally just be like, yeah, I've just come back from hospital, had an hour treatment.
Yeah, it's tough. But that is a kind of difficult one, because you want to be treated like you were before, because you are still Leanne, you are still Beth, but then again, your mindset has changed, your perspective has changed, which is great because it's developed, matured, it thinks of other things beyond kind of the things you were thinking about as a 16 or 17-year-old before. But it's a tough one.
What about you? How did you balance everything? Well, yours was different completely because you were still at sixth form, wasn't you? So
yeah, I think coping with cancer is a tough one. It's subjective. It depends who you are, what position you're in, age, work, lifestyle. My effect on my daily life was I didn't want to give up the things I was doing before, so it meant I was juggling more things, balancing plates, and yeah, it's a juggling act. And yeah, it was completely different to you. I think I was balancing education, so sixth form, and going into university, because really cancer isn't just the chemotherapy part.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's the recovery after.
Yeah, everything.
And you don't realise that. I thought as soon as I finished chemo, right, back on it, back on the horse, you know. And
that's
life
literally how I felt as well, yeah.
Yeah, and you actually don't bear in mind the recovery period, and arguably that is as important as the during, going through the treatment, because if you don't recover well, then mentally you might suffer, physically you might suffer because of the strain on you, you repress things. So I coped with it in quite an intense way. I didn't really address it as I was going through it because I just didn't have time. So my effects on daily life just meant that everything got more intense, everything was super busy. When I should have been listening to my body and resting, I was trying to revise. And it was all the constant guilt, like, okay, I need to go to hospital, I'm guilty, I'm not revising at the moment, or I'm guilty because everything that I should be doing in my former life before this cancer still hasn't gone away. It still needs me. It's reliant on me, and I can't be doing it. I've now got another pull, another kind of something that's reliant on me. So it's a constant juggle. The cancer changed how uni was for me, because when I went into uni, I felt like I had so much wisdom on my shoulders and everything had changed compared to like a fresher. Yeah,
oh yeah, they're in it for the alcohol and partying.
Oh my god, yeah.
What was you in it for? Life?
Well, it kind of was like a little bit of that, but just not to the intensity that other people wanted.
Yeah, the extreme.
Yeah, so it's difficult because all of a sudden, the year before, I would have been involved in all of that and hadn't batted an eyelid. Now I was involved in that, but had an experience that had changed my mentality completely.
And you're still recovering, weren't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I felt like it was a massive battle always. Like, am I being true to myself? Do I even want this anymore? How can I want this anymore when 4 months ago I was laying in bed and didn't know if I'd be up again?
Yeah.
So cancer, a way to cope with it, really, I felt like you had to be true to yourself, and it changed everything around you.
But did you, because you were juggling so much, did you still have it in your head that you were a cancer patient, or did you not really have time to think about that, if that makes sense?
It's interesting because when you said about the nurses saying drop it, that's what happened to me, because when you are a cancer patient, in inverted commas, you feel like you lose your identity, you lose your purpose in other areas. So I felt like I was encouraged to drop the other things that I was doing because you should focus on the treatment, and I refused to. So it meant that my identity as a cancer patient was different. It was warped. It wasn't just that. I was kind of almost like cancer patient by morning, like student by evening, like this by that. Like instead of, I was almost living like triple life rather than a dual life.
The Hannah Montana life.
It wasn't as glamorous as
that.
Well, I probably had a wig that I whipped.
Oh yeah. Best of both worlds.
Oh my god. Yeah. So what about you? How did you find the balance? Did you find it challenging on you? Did you find that you should be balancing more or less things?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I had so much free time on my hands, because when they told me to drop university, I can understand why, because I declined so quickly, and I was so sick from treatment because I was having it every other day that my body just couldn't keep up. The way that I coped with it was by sleeping, and I think in a way that is the best thing that I used to do. And they would say to me, you know, don't exercise, but at least see if you can walk up and down your road. And that was a huge task.
It's maintaining that as well. As soon as you stop, you give in. And it's not out of weakness. It's just kind of like, oh, I feel rough, I don't want to walk. That you decline, you stop walking.
That's
if
the
you
thing.
keep it up, you keep pushing, and obviously within reason. But you're keeping up that activity, which is so vital.
Yeah, but I constantly had in my mind, that's all I could think about cancer, because that was my life. Going up the hospital all of the time, literally my whole life revolved around cancer. And then it became the talk with my family as well. And I think it got to the point where my brother would be sick about hearing it all the time, because he was dealing with his GCSEs. So this was like a huge year for him. But we'd come home, me and my mum from hospital, and be like, you never guess what her blood results are today, or she's neutropenic again, and it'd literally just be the whole conversation. It got to the point where I just hated it. I just did not want to talk about it, because I was just thinking that I just want to talk about something other than cancer, but I have nothing to talk about other than it. But I feel the chunks of the years that you miss, or the time that you miss, it does have a big impact on...
Also, you can't just go back into that environment. Like,
no.
For instance, the time that we were recovering, we put pressure on ourselves to go back into that environment. So maybe like socialise, go out on Friday nights or whatever that may be. And for us to have gone through all of that, we don't look the same for that period of time. Like, now we have recovered, and I'm thankful that I feel more like me. But a couple of years ago, being in freshers and everyone going out, I went out, you know, because I thought, no, you like this, Beth, like this is what you used to do, and come on, give it a go, this will help your progression, it will help speed up recovery. And I went there, and inevitably I felt so uncomfortable, and that's because of the experience. If I hadn't have gone through that, then I would have looked differently, probably would have weighed less, like, but like all of these things, you do change mentality and physically, and like it's fine. Like now, I'm happy, it's fine, it's great, but you can't be expected to throw yourself back into the deep end.
That's literally how I feel. When I was 18, just finished sixth form, we were out every weekend, and I was probably one of the first ones out the door. Like, I just couldn't wait to have a night out. But if somebody says to me now, oh, do you want to come for a night out? I can't anyway, because I mainly work. So, you know, my work is there, but I use that as the excuse. But really, even now, I just think, no, I just don't see the interest in it. Don't get me wrong, when I do go out, I think, okay, yeah, I do like this, but then at the same time, I just want to be in bed. I'd rather just watch telly in bed. But yeah, I've never got back into clubbing or anything like that. And that was something that I used to enjoy at that time, I guess.
Yeah, but it's interesting because this podcast episode is about coping with cancer and its effect on our daily life.
Yeah.
And you have an expectation to, after chemo, when you aren't physically having drugs put inside of you, to go back to that life and carry on that equilibrium that you had before. But things just change. Things like your life changes, and I know I've forced myself to take up everything that I was doing before, so there was no change, as if it never happened.
Yeah.
But you have to accept, friendships might change because of what you've gone through, just because of how you are now as a person. You might not have any similarities or interest, hobbies, just things you enjoy, and that's okay. But that's only when you realise that and have a bit of time after it that you kind of come to terms with these things. So we got another question, which again is with coping with cancer and its effects. So did you become more aware of your mental health?
Yes, I think it's become not a problem, I would say, but my mental health has increased now that I've recovered, as opposed to when I was actually going through it. Because when I was going through it, I tried to be as positive as I could, and all the nurses would say, oh yeah, you're always so polite, you always seem so happy. And I guess when you actually go through something like that and you have treatment, you don't have time to think. You just, you have to do this. So you have to, if you want to go, if you want to be healthy, you have to get through it. And everything happens so quickly, you have no time to think. Yeah, so it's just that one day when you go in, you have treatments, and then the next day you could go and see your oncologist and they say, yep, okay, you're all done, off you go.
Yeah.
And it was then when I thought, okay, what do I do now? And then that's when I began to process everything that's just happened to me.
Yeah.
And then in a way, I felt a bit lost. Like, where do I go from here?
Yeah. And also, you saying like about your mental health has been more flagged up kind of recently.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when you're in that environment, yes, you're going through chemo, but you walk in and everyone's like you.
Yeah.
And I think that might contribute to it. Whereas when you leave and you're discharged, you go out and now you feel like the odd one out. You feel like you aren't like everyone else.
No.
So, okay, now I've got to face things.
I don't know about you, but when I go for checkups, I almost feel guilty when I go in there and you see the people that are currently going through it now.
Yeah.
And you just think, you feel guilty that when the nurses see you, they may say, oh my gosh, you look amazing, look at you. But then you feel guilty. Oh, well, I do anyway. I feel guilty because they're looking at you just like, I wish that could be them, I'm guessing. Which I know it could be great that they see us and think, wow, she's gone through it, amazing. But then they could also, because I remember when I used to see people that would walk in and they'd compliment them, I would just be like, I wish I could be you right now and stuff like that.
I know, I completely agree. But then I just think it's everyone's process.
Yeah.
So I just hope, obviously, not everyone is as blessed to be sitting here, but I just hope that you will be me, and then when I move on, you'll be in my position, and the next person will watch you, and I hope it's a conveyor belt system. I would say in terms of mental health, I was just too occupied to ever deal with anything emotionally. I just did it all. But yeah, it's definitely, for me, I didn't expect the recovery to be as hard hitting.
Same, yeah. I feel like when you're recovering or when you're about to recover, the nurses say to you, oh yeah, you just need these and these, and then you can go off and do what you want. And it's not you can go off and do what you want. It is hard.
I know, and they say you can go off and you're like, life's beginning. Like you go off as if this is it. And then it's that false expectation because it's really not.
You feel like you're unstoppable. Like you feel like the next day you could probably run a marathon.
Yeah.
And no.
I suppose it's how you do it. It's definitely how you do it. Maybe if I was, I don't know, in a job or married or whatever, then I could have taken that time out from my job and could have been in comfort and, comfort zone, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But
starting uni after I've just been discharged was like so intense and made that recovery really difficult and isolating and hard because you move away from home, so you are on your own anyway.
Yeah.
So I think more attention should definitely be made to recovery and
for sure,
focusing on yourself. And I think that's when I started to think about mental health and stuff, and it's been difficult at times for sure, but only in healthy ways, I think. Like, if it wasn't difficult at times, then I think then it would be further down the line. And then now I've got to a point where I can look back and see the peaks and troughs and see that coping with cancer has been a complete journey. It's changed my life completely in areas that I didn't think it ever would. Mentally, physically, friendships, family, who I am, what I think about, what I enjoy doing, to what I eat. Like, it's everything. I just didn't expect it to filtrate into as many areas, but I'm very grateful for it. But there's definitely been some tough moments with mental health, and where like I've looked in the mirror and didn't recognise myself and just thought, I can't do this. And that's the first time I thought, I can't do this. And I never gave up, carried on ploughing away, but it was tough to do it. But that was the journey, and that's just how it's going to be. It's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows.
No. I feel like it's acceptable to have one of those days where, you know, you just don't feel like you can go through with it. I had that as well. And I don't know, it's just the perception as well that people want you to have, almost like, oh, you're so strong, how do you do this, keep going. It's like, but I don't want. Did you ever have people say to you, keep positive, you can do it, you're so inspirational? And there's days where you feel like you have to live up to that, and no, like, I don't want to live up to that. I want to have days where I crumble. And
you're only human. It's hard to know what to say. Like, I really was thankful for that, and was like, oh, thank you, and felt like it was a boost as well. But it's also hard, because it's like, I am the same as you, remember? I am a human. I've got faults, I've got perfections, imperfections, like all of the above. So it is hard to keep muddling through.
How are you coping at the moment with mental health and health itself? Do you have any health anxiety?
No, to be honest, I'm quite a what you see is what you get. So I just kind of do get on with it. But I get on with it and keep going, and it's fine. And then I realise, I've worked myself into the ground, or it might get too much and I've tipped myself over the edge. But I'm not really that much of a second guesser, like a what if, or anxious in terms of health scares and stuff. I don't really think about it coming back, because I just think, what's the point? It's not going to change it, and if it does, it does. But obviously, the thought of it coming back is terrifying, but I just don't really go there.
No.
I think it could open a whole host of...
That's the thing, I think I'm completely different in that sense, because not that I think about it often, but if I have a cold, I won't think anything of it. But if I have swollen lymph nodes, or which I had not that long ago, I started to panic and think, oh my gosh, right, what's going on here?
Oh, don't, I'm checking now.
Oh no. But that's how, like, literally that's how I think. Or if I have bruises, I will question where they come from. Why are they here? Have I hurt myself? Is this, like, you know? There's times when I always panic if I find something that shouldn't be there. But to be honest, it's major health anxiety, I think. Yeah,
that's so interesting, because it hasn't that. I feel like I'm pretty much the same as I was before I was diagnosed. I don't really think about it, because my mentality is completely different to yours, and everyone's is completely different. It's again how you cope with cancer. So the effects of cancer has made us cope in different ways. I don't really think about it, because I just look at it as, right, done, move on, it happens. And then with you more so, it's checking, feeling, oh god, what is this?
That's the thing. I don't actively look out for it, but if something's there, I won't stop.
So this is another point that was flagged up by one of our listeners, that said about compromise. So now we might not be able to go to all social events, or we can't do uni life, or whatever that may be, in the way that we planned, or the way that we wanted to. Do you feel like you've compromised in the way that you do things, maybe the way you go out, or things have changed just in terms of you would have done it differently before cancer?
I think I compromise more when I know I have a lot on, like, going on. And also if I'm not well, I compromise then, because with me, as soon as I'm ill, I can get from having a cold to then having the flu if I'm not careful. So there's maybe times when somebody asks me to go out and I'm not well, and I'll say to them, oh, I don't know. Or even I still get really tired quickly.
Yeah.
So there's days when I feel absolutely fine, and there's days when I can't get out of bed. So I have to kind of compromise as well. Okay, if I do this, how will I be the next day?
Interesting.
So yeah,
So even like
that's a huge one for me.
A few years down the line,
Yeah.
you're still compromising daily life.
Yeah, and also as well, I think this is actually quite a big one for me. I now have a fear, not so much that I think about people being close to people in such a small space, but I have a huge fear that I can't get on a train or a bus during rush hour because it's so enclosed, and once
Germs.
upon a time I couldn't do that. Yeah, germs.
Yeah.
So now I have to make sure I either go before or after, and some people find it funny, but
that's so interesting.
yeah, and even though I know it's more than likely to be okay if I did that, I just still have that fear that, you know, I can't go rush hour because there's so many people on that train. Yeah.
It's true.
How about you?
In all honesty, I still did that when I was going through chemo.
I know. I don't know how you did that.
Which is
I really
awful.
don't know.
I didn't realise at the time how bad that was. Don't tell my doctor. But, so, in terms of effects on my daily life now, I think major effects are how I've lived uni, how I've experienced uni. I've done that completely differently. I was sociable. I did my societies, my singing, my sport, but I think I would have gone out more, probably would have been friends with a different kind of people, or closer to the friends that I had, or friendships would have changed. I think I would have thought differently. At the moment, I think my thoughts are elsewhere. Like, say I was in a bar, I'm not thinking about the bar. When I'm in there, I'm thinking elsewhere. I'm completely thinking about other things.
You just don't find it interesting anymore.
I'm just preoccupied with other more important things, in my opinion. That's what I value more. I think my thoughts would have been completely different. And then as a result, I think I just would have done different things with my time, maybe. But all of which has happened for a reason, and you know, I'm happy with how it's come out. But it's interesting to look back and see the person you were, are now.
Massively changed.
The people you knew, the people you interacted with, like it does completely change. I think that's the effects on my daily life. I don't think I have habits as such, or like anxieties, or things that I do now that I did do then that have kind of stuck with me. I feel like my life is completely different now, but I just have a better mind, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I've got down here just coping with cancer. So if we come back to the fundamentals of this episode, how did you cope then, and how do you cope now? So we talk about effects on daily life.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you cope then, and how did you cope? How do you cope now? Is it different, or?
When I coped back then, I just had to be positive. I, in a way, put up this front, and, you know, if there was bad news being sent my way, I'd have to, okay, get over it. I've got to go through this as well. It is what it is. I was constantly positive. I did have my down days, but I coped by sleeping all the time. And I also started a blog where I basically just wrote out my thoughts and what happened during my days and what happened at hospital.
Yeah, thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, so I feel like that was my way of letting everything out. So that was the main main way that I coped. And now it's hard because I don't think about it as much as what I did back then. I'm guessing because we're back into the real world.
Yeah.
But coping now, I guess it's just, in a way, a distance memory, and I always try to remind myself how grateful I am.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's easier said than done, because sometimes you get wrapped up in all that this is.
Yeah.
How did I cope then? I coped with having a goal in mind, which was my A-levels and doing my exams. I think that helped me to keep focused, have a purpose, get up in the morning, to be honest. Even though I did push myself too hard, I think without that, without school, maybe I could have sat back a bit more and let it consume me more. Maybe my body would have benefited from the extra rest, but my mind would have been so invested in that identity, which is the cancer patient, whereas that was like my part-time job.
Yeah.
Everything else, you know, and my extracurricular and my like, little voluntary thing. That's what it seemed like. It's like my CV was loaded with all these things, and cancer was one, you know. So yeah, I would say back in the day, 2015, I coped by having a goal, and that's not for everyone, but for me, that worked by distracting myself, and having a routine as well, I think was good in terms of school, hospital here, revise, school, you know, I knew what I was doing, I had certainty, control. I think I had control, and as long as I could control things, I knew I'd be fine. Hence why I think I pushed so hard and got so far and succeeded to an extent, because I just controlled the things, and the things I did control worked out. And obviously the cancer I couldn't control, so I might as well invest my time in other things. As for how do I cope now, I think I cope now by addressing it and talking about it. And I honestly can talk about it fine, because I have addressed it and I feel fine about it. Obviously, if I talk about it for hours and hours and hours, there'll be memories that I remember which I think, oh, I forgot about that. Then they might actually kind of touch me a bit, because I completely forgot about that. I've never shared that, and the last time I knew about that was actually at the time, and I've revisited it. How do I feel about this? But I cope now because I know how I feel about everything. I look back at it, it happened, this is what went on, this is what happened as a result, and this is the positives I've drawn from it. So excellent, done, move on.
Amazing.
One in the back, you know, tell the grandkids.
Here's your medal,
So I think it's knowing how you feel about an experience and taking positives from it, which allows you to move on and cope. Because I think if I never addressed it, and if it destroyed me, you know, changed my life in terms of I never went to uni, or I never met friends, I never moved on, then I think it'd be a very troublesome topic.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you feel now when it may be brought up with new people? Like, do you feel, because before I remember when I was ill, and if I met someone new and I had my wig on and everything like that, I felt like I had I felt like I had to tell them that I had cancer, even though I didn't want to. I feel like, you know, you don't know that I have cancer. But now I'm just like, I don't know, now I just don't bring it up. But if someone asks or if someone wonders, I'm just like, yeah, this happened. I've started to get confident with that now, I think. What about, like, is that, how did you
I feel like I'm quite confident saying about it. I don't want other people to feel awkward, because I'm not awkward.
That's the thing.
So I'm if I'd say it awkwardly, then they'll feel awkward, which makes me feel awkward, and I'm not awkward about it. So I just am like, yeah, it happened. Like, I met a girl like a couple of days ago, and like within about 5 minutes, and she was like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, I'll do this, do that. Yeah, I've also got this podcast. She's like, what's it about? I was like, oh, me and my friend talk about how we had cancer as teenagers. And she was like, oh. And I feel like, no,
don't worry about
cool.
it.
Like, it's fine. Like, it happens. You know, it happens to the best of us. Happens to the worst of us. You know, move on, talk about it, great, and help someone else. So I really don't want it to be a taboo, because it's not for me.
No.
And obviously, I'm one person, and for other people, it's more difficult to discuss. But personally, I feel like it was hard to cope with, but now I'm at a good point where you can look back and take the best times.
Yeah, you kind of learn, and you just learn to accept it, and it takes a very long time. But when you get there, also, you know, this isn't for everyone. Some people may never accept it. But I feel like majority of people, well, for us especially, we've learnt to accept it now, and it is what it is. I mean, we have had, I know it's bizarre to say, but we have had some good times whilst having cancer, haven't we?
I feel like, thing is, for me, the good times were always tainted. Like, for instance, if I was having fun whilst I was ill, I would recognise, okay, this is an enjoyable time right now, but I am not happy. Like, that's how I felt. So if I was at a party, social event, a charity event, I'd stand there, my wig on, looking like a sausage, like wrapped in tight material. That's how I felt. You know, you get the sausage meat. In like the plasticky thing. That's how I felt. Like, my dress was the plastic, and like my bloated steroid body was the sausage meat. I felt like that. So I felt like I was standing there like, I'm a sausage. I'm a bit like airy right now with all this steroid weight, but this party's fun. Like, it was kind of like always just in discomfort. Always like, this is not great. But like appreciating the times. Whereas now, if I enjoy something, I'm genuinely there and genuinely like, oh, like I'm not thinking about my achy joints.
No,
I'm not thinking about like
amazing,
like how tight this wig and this hairnet thing is on my head. It's gonna blow my brains out from all the pressure. Like it's genuinely fine.
That's the thing. You used to go to events or just, I don't know, whatever you were doing, you just wanted to rip that wig off. Oh my gosh.
I wanted to rip everything off. It was all just so uncomfortable because like your body shape changes in the steroids and you're trying to fit on the same stuff.
I just lived in leggings. That is all I lived in, leggings.
Yeah, literally. Now, interestingly, we've got a great guest called Alice who told us that she started university when her mum was diagnosed with cancer. Now, we have discussed how we felt coping with cancer as the individual ourselves. So it'll be interesting to hear another point of view as family members. So we'll have a little chat to her and just see how she feels, how she coped with cancer and her effect on daily life, mentally, physically.
I'm really excited to hear all about it because it'll be interesting. We know how we felt, but it will give us an insight of what it's actually like for somebody else who's watching it through their eyes.
Yeah, and someone who was our age.
Yeah.
Through. Okay.
So here is Alice.
My mum was diagnosed with breast cancer last summer, and she had 2 different forms of cancer in her boob, and they found it. She thinks she had it like at least a year before they found it, so they're really lucky that they got it when they did. But yeah, that's just sort of a bit about it. And then she was given. She went into remission. I think, about around this time last year, and now she's just on cancer blockers and things. But yeah, it was really weird. It was really kind of like it finished as quick as it started in a way. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really weird. But yeah, I just to let you know, like the type of cancer she had. I don't know if that helps with questions, but yeah, I'm happy to start.
Yeah, fabulous. So how, just quite simply, how did your mum cope? How did you cope?
I think my mum's way of coping was being really active and on her feet. She didn't stop her daily life in any way, or she didn't alter her daily life. I think the only thing that changed was the cleanliness of the house.
Yeah.
You know, we had antibacterial hand gel in every room.
Oh yeah,
after she started going through the treatment. But in terms of coping, I think she just kind of acted as though she didn't have it, and I think that was kind of a defense mechanism in a way, because I would have liked to have maybe seen a point where she almost accepted that she had it, but I don't think she ever quite did. But in the long run, perhaps that was a good thing in the sense that it kept her going and it kept her acting as normal as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she took up, when she was diagnosed, actually about 4 weeks later, she took up an extra job.
Oh, wow.
She's a drama teacher, so she took an extra school on in terms of teaching, and we were all like, "Mum, what are you doing? You need to relax and actually wind down." But I think had she wound down, then in a way, for her personally, everyone's story, and everyone's coping mechanism is completely different, I'm sure, depending on what they're going through. But for her, I think actually it's good that she kept on doing as much as she was, because although it may have stressed her out at points, it kind of didn't give her time to fog her mind with the what ifs and the oh my gosh. And there were times, at 4 o'clock in the morning, she'd be searching through Google and convincing herself that she was going to die. She was reading all these things like, oh gosh, this person had the same cancer as me, and oh, the odds are this and the odds are that. And I kept having to remind her that, Mum, we could all sit here and have the same type of cancer, but our bodies would all probably act in a completely different way. And might be on completely different treatments or treatment schemes. I guess she was on her own sort of medicinal scheme that was very different to a lot of the other women that were going through the same things. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So I think to help Mum cope, it was kind of letting her carry on. As much as we wanted to tell her to slow down, it was actually to encourage her to, keep doing what she's doing every day. She worked too hard, to be honest.
Yes, but that was her way of coping.
Yeah, because I think the thing is as well, she was ill for at least a year, they think, before they actually discovered the breast cancer. So, because, when I'm ill, I notice a change in my fatigue and my energy, and I have anemia, for instance. So when I have it really badly, sometimes it can put me in bed for a good day, and I really noticed a change. But with Mum, she didn't realise she was ill. She wasn't used to feeling any different really.
Yeah,
Last year. So it's kind of not good that they caught it late. Of course, you want to catch it as soon as possible, but actually, in a weird way, the fact that she'd had a year kind of feeling the way she was meant that there wasn't a sudden change in Mum when she started going through it all, because she'd been like that. So I think that also helped. But for family members, I think it's really hard to watch someone go through that, because for Mum, I think she realised that it affected the people around her perhaps more than it affected her in a weird way, because as much as she did have days where she'd get upset, she'd have awful days sometimes where she'd feel like, I can't believe this has happened and I'm really scared. But actually, Mum just sort of got on with it, whereas for me personally, I just couldn't stop thinking about it, whereas Mum was actually really proactive and didn't sit there feeling sorry for herself, whereas I think I did.
Yeah. And also, you can't control it, so you're always going to be on edge because it's not within your capacity to change it.
Exactly. And I think when I first found out that she was ill, that's the first thing that really struck me. I didn't have control. I was like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do. Like, I can't take Mum to a nice spa day and she'll feel better, or I can't, not that I was at uni, so I probably spent the money to do that.
To be realistic.
As much as I'd love to give her an island. But, it's just one of those things, like, there just wasn't anything I could do. And as soon as I found out, I cried for about 3 days straight in bed. It was awful. But I think it's because you never think it's going to happen to you, regardless of whether you're the one that has the cancer or you're the one that knows someone that has a cancer. You never think necessarily that you're going to be in that situation where you have to go through that. I think especially when you're young, and kind of listening to things that you two have said in the past, you're young, you don't think, gosh, this is something that's going to be part of my life so soon,
Definitely.
And then it is, and then it just kind of stops you in your tracks, and you're like, oh my god, what do I do?
So how did you cope with it? Like you said, obviously you want to try and do everything and make sure your mum is okay, but really you're not able to control how she is and do her chemo for you.
Yeah, well, for me, to be honest, I didn't cope very well with it. I think I had a bit of a delayed reaction. Although I cried for like 3 days, I felt really sad. I kind of tried to get on with things, and I dived into a master's degree, and I tried to do things to sort of not cover up that it was happening, but kind of take my mind off it. But then I realised there was only so long I could do that until I'd have a night out with my friends and they'd be really happy, and I'd have a drink and think, oh my gosh, like, I feel horrible, I feel so sad, and actually, oh my god, like, I need to face up to what is happening, and instead of running away from it, sort of get involved. So I'd FaceTime my mum every day. I think that's something that really helped, because with cancer, I think it's the big C word. The minute you hear it, it makes you shoddy, and a lot of people hear it and think, the worst. That, especially when Mum said she had it, all I could think was, oh my god, is she gonna die? Is she gonna die? Is she gonna die? Like, oh my gosh. And I think people don't know enough about it. I think you see all the adverts and you see leaflets, and it's really, that it's so complex. Cancer is such a complex thing.
Yes.
And there's so many different types of cancer. And my mum has one of, there's so many different types of breast cancer, and there's so many different types of complications. But, you might have a breast cancer that could seem, that you seem like could recover from easily. But then, something else could come along. And that's what happened with Mum. She had 2 different cancers in her breast. And, so you kind of think of but for me coping, it was FaceTiming Mum every day, just making sure she was okay. As long as I could speak to her every day, that gave me reassurance.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it's just doing what you can. I came home most weekends from uni, and I think she did miss me and my brother a lot, because we were both at uni at the time. So and it kind of gave me reassurance to be home as well, to see her. So I think actually being around that person, it really normalises it. I think the worst thing anyone could do is run away, because as easy as it is to, it actually builds up a worse picture in your head of what's going on. And I think actually if you look it in the eye and actually just crack on with it, you realise it's scary, but it's not as bad as it might be if you didn't deal with it. You know?
Well put. And also I feel like, as you were saying with the taboo, cancer is such an umbrella term.
Yeah.
Like that word doesn't represent all the intricacies of different types of cancer.
No, that's the thing, yeah.
So you think of the worst because you see that name smacked on the front of leaflets. And
all you hear is bad stories. You never really hear of good stories, do you?
But you sound like a very good daughter.
Yeah.
Well, it is an umbrella term because there's so much there's so many different ways that cancer can affect you, and you know, in some people it might not be cancer that actually really affects you. It could be the treatment, and you might actually have long-term damage from treatment you've had. So there's so much that people don't really know, and it was a massive learning curve for both me, my mum, and my dad.
Did you find it difficult to know who to turn to, or did you keep it to yourself, or did you have people you could speak about it to?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I did keep it to myself for a bit. I think I don't know how you feel, but for me, I think when something happens, my automatic response isn't to go around and sort of tell people. You know, I'm the kind of person that would put an achievement on Facebook, or, you know, I've got this in my degree, or I've got this job in radio, and that will go on. But when it's something personal, and especially something that's quite emotionally, you know, it's you know, I always keep it to myself, and it's probably not a good thing to bottle things up, but I do. I think, well, before I found out that I actually rang my friend an hour before she told me, and I said, I think my mum's got cancer, and I think she's going to tell me tonight. So actually, I spoke to one friend before I was even told. Because I I came back from holiday and saw that mum was she seemed really ill, and kind of overheard some conversations between her and dad, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm quite, you know, when you just know
something's not right,
you just know, sometimes you just get that instinct. So actually one friend did know, and it was that friend that was kind of there for me, and then I started to open up. Probably 2 months afterwards, I started to open up to my friends at uni, and they all had mums that, like, been through something similar. Like, 3 of my friends' mums had breast cancer, another friend had another mum had cancer in her leg and in her bone, and actually I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, and that was such a really big thing. People that I didn't really know that well at uni were opening up and having, and it really helped just for someone else to be like, my mum's been through it too.
Would you say then how that experience with cancer then affected your life in terms of it changed your friends at uni, like your master's degree? It really like went into your life and changed it?
Yeah, it did. I think because as an early, you don't expect that it's going to happen to you, and when it does, it just makes you feel, it made me feel awful. It really did. And
of course,
I think when you're at uni and you're kind of away from it, it gives you time to kind of bottle things up in your head. You know, sat in my uni room, I was overthinking, and that's why I think it was a really positive thing that I FaceTime mum every day, because, you know, if I was stressing about it at work or at uni, I'd come back and then actually she'd seem okay, and then I'd be like, right, phew, you need to just take a step back and not worry as much. But it did, it took a massive toll, to the point where I really thought that I was going to have to drop out of uni, just because there were kind of other things going on as well which didn't really help. But yeah, it did take a massive toll. But I would definitely say that if anyone has a family member that is going through that and they're having to sort of watch someone's health decline, you know, it's not easy watching someone get ill at all. And I think talking to people and actually having people saying, oh, my mum's been through that, I know exactly how you're feeling, it really helps. So but it did affect everything.
I can imagine. It sounds so tough. Right, thank you so much, Alice, for speaking to us. She was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so interesting to learn about someone else's perspective from an outside.
She was saying so accurately about how she coped with her mum's cancer, and really it just showed that she coped by bouncing off of how her mum was coping. And also taking on so much and repressing it and putting all of that onto herself, how much she could do for her mum.
Yeah, so thank you again. That was absolutely amazing, and we really enjoyed interviewing you.
So that's it really. We're wrapping up now this episode. So this ep was on coping with cancer, our effects on our daily life. So everything from mental health, physical, pressures, frustration, friends, bit of everything really. A nice little fruit salad.
Yeah. No, I've really enjoyed today. And thank you so much for listening once again. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our social media accounts.
Yes, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Give us a follow, give us a like. Also just comment and be vocal and say what you want us to talk about. If you're interested in featuring, give us a little comment, and we always post Q&As and things for you to get involved in.
Yeah, so thanks again. We will see you next time.
Yep, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.